University as we know it is getting an upgrade. Swinburne University's deep industry partnerships give you real industry experience with innovation and creativity in every course, connecting you to your career faster. So, when does the next generation of university arrive? Now. Swinburne, next gen, now.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jos Ivanchuk, and I am with the Swinburne Vietnam Student HQ team, and I will be your host for today. I'm honored to welcome you all to Swinburne Vietnam's first episode of the new Changemaker Talks. This is an innovative series of conversations where we will have a number of highly acclaimed and respected members of the global community joining our discussions to talk about various aspects of their lives, careers, and the role of a changemaker in the modern world. Now, don't forget, with this being a live stream Q&A, we want to hear all the questions that you have and from our audiences. So all you have to do is post your questions during the live stream, and we will try to answer as many as we can at the end. Now, it's an honor to welcome our first guest in the series today, Ms. Vi Le Peterson, who is a multicultural, multilingual trade diplomat and philanthropist, who has conquered top leadership positions in international trade and relations, including Australia's Senior Trade Commission in Vietnam and Swinburne University Council member. Vi has extensive private sector and public sector experience in the field of banking and finance, trade diplomacy, trade and investment facilitation, and project development in emerging markets. While living and working in Vietnam from 1997 to 2001, Vi and her husband, former first US Ambassador Pete Peterson, became aware of the enormous public health burden caused by preventable injuries in Vietnam. Together, they set out to address the problems by advocating action and mobilizing the diplomatic and development community in Hanoi. As a result of this experience, and upon their return to the United States, they co-founded the Alliance for Safe Children in 2002, a US non-for-profit organization dealing with child injury prevention in the developing world. Prior to her current international activities, Vi had a 15-year banking career with the ANZ Bank, covering business, corporate, and international banking. She played a key role in the successful establishment of ANZ's Greenfield operations in Vietnam in 1993. Post her ANZ period, she served as Australia's Senior Trade Commissioner to Vietnam from 1996 to 1999, where she was heavily involved in trade diplomacy, promoting Australian exports and investments into Vietnam, and providing input and advice on Australian Vietnamese trade policy to the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. We're honoured to have you with us today, Ms. Vi, and I'm certain our audience is looking forward to hearing your insightful thoughts. Would you like to say a few words before we continue?
Well, thank you very much, and it's a pleasure and an honor for me to feature as the first guest in this Changemaker series. I am delighted to be here. I look forward to your questions. And, I am a council member of Swinburne University, but my favorite unit is Swinburne Vietnam.
Thank you very much, Vi. And next, we also have Dr. Marisha McAuliffe, Director of Student HQ at Swinburne Vietnam. Marisha, would you like to say a few things?
Yes, good morning. It's absolutely delightful to have you here. And Vi, it's absolutely a pleasure to have the insights from someone who is so much into philanthropy and has contributed so much to being change in Vietnam and in Australia and abroad. It's wonderful. So good morning and thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, Marisha. And finally joining us, we have Director of Swinburne Vietnam, Dr. Quang Viet Ha.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. Ms. Vi Le Peterson and all students. Morning, Jock and Marisa. My name is Ha, and I'm Director of Swinburne Vietnam. It's such an honor for me, for all students at Swinburne, to welcome Vi Peterson to share with us the topic of Changemaker today. So at Swinburne, we promote the brand value of Changemaker. It is a person who makes a change, and he is not only a student, but also the university make a change as well. And the changes can be changed from learning local language to English, learn global knowledge and skill, change to use technology and making technology in the people, working for a better world. and change from local citizen to global citizen. I strongly believe that the change mindset, people can have a better future because they are not waiting for the future. They are create the future. And now I would leave the stage for York and Marisa and our special speaker today, Vi Le Peterson. And thank you very much for spending time with us. And thank you all of you for your attendance. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being with us today and your introduction, Dr. Ha. Now, without further ado, I would like to move on to the main section of today, and I'm sure that our audience is really looking forward to hearing from Vi. So we have a few questions, first of all. So the first question will be from Dr. Marisha.
Yes. Thank you, Jos. Now, Vi, this is about you and, you know, getting insights from your knowledge and experience. So what does a change maker look like to you? What do you think a change maker, as it were, would look like over the next 5 years, given that we have a lot of changes from pre-COVID now to a post-COVID world? How do you think that this will change, and what do you think it looks like?
Thank you, Marisha. To me, change making is about making an impact. It could be very small, it could be very large, it could be just within your community, within your country, or globally. And it's really about picking an issue that you really believe in, that you are passionate about, but that has an impact that is bigger than you. You know, it's not about just doing something for yourself, but it's about looking at, be it a problem within your community, a problem within your country, a problem within the world, and saying, you know, I might be able to do something about it. And then having the courage and the conviction to say, okay, I'll start. And then continue and persevering in that endeavor, because it'll be a journey. It might be a short journey, it might be a long journey. There will be lots of ups and downs. There will be fallbacks, you know, there will be obstacles. But if you really believe in it and you have the courage of your conviction, then you will succeed. Now, the COVID pandemic has inflicted just, tremendous, unbelievable changes to our lives. And I think what we have to start realizing is that a lot of the changes will be permanent. And so we need to be flexible, we need to be nimble, we need to be able to adapt to the change, and then looking at the present problems and start thinking in future, how are we going to cope with that? Because what we used to do in the past, that no longer applies. And that applies to my own business as well. You know, and so we need to start planning ahead and say, okay, I used to do it this way, but this is what is going to be required, and start thinking about that. Does that answer your question?
Yes, very much so, and so insightful. I think really that's so important to remember that there are downfalls and there are roadblocks along the way that we have no control over. Jos, you had a question about something that's really quite close to Vi's heart. Do you want to ask her that?
Yes, sure. So I thought your answer then was great, Vi, and I think that, you know, the way that the world is going to change over the course of the next few years, particularly after these disastrous events that do happen. But I really wanted to find out more because I know that you're clearly very passionate about one specific thing, and that is you being the co-founder of the Alliance for Safe Children. Now, what do you think, or what would you say was the main driving force behind starting this foundation? And what was your vision when you started out?
Okay, well, thank you. That really is very close to my heart. When the start of all this was when my husband and I were still working in Vietnam. So he was a US ambassador. I was the Australian senior trade commissioner. In my husband's part of my husband's work was to really uh, get to know the country so that he could figure out how the United States and Vietnam can cooperate. Of course, given the history between the two countries, there were a lot of political issues, but he decided to choose specifically a non-political issue, and that was public health. And so together we started visiting, he visited in his time. I think Vietnam at the time had about 60 provinces. I know it has more now, but I think he visited most of the provinces. And in every province, every city that he visited, we visited, sometimes I was with him, other times I was not. We found we would always make a point of visiting a hospital. And on those visits, we were just astounded by the number of patients that were from accidents. So Vietnam at the time, was, you still had a lot of problems in public health in terms of infectious diseases, nutrition, and all that. And yet the hospital beds were overtaken by accidents, falls, road accidents, electrocution, burns. And we started saying to ourselves, these people are taking up space that should be devoted to the more important health issues, because these people's accidents are quite preventable. And you all live in Vietnam, the traffic hasn't changed much since 25 years ago, but also it's the lack of safety awareness. And so then we started saying, well, we have to do something about it. And that's when we thought it started with what was called then the Safe Vietnam campaign. It was spearheaded by the US Embassy, by my husband, with my help. So we then started to think about, how could we do that? He had he's public health officer and all that. But I also started thinking, between us, we're not going to be able to do it. And so we then started thinking, okay, we're both in the diplomatic community. We can probably, first step is to mobilize the diplomatic community. And we did that. We also mobilized the development community, UNICEF, WHO. UNICEF in particular was very, very helpful at the time. And so then we started the Safe Vietnam campaign, and we started lobbying the Vietnamese government to do something about it. It took a long time, but in the meantime, then we started trying to find funds to do little projects, and that's how we started. Then by mid 2001, it was time to leave Vietnam, and so that was the end of our tenure. We left Vietnam and went back to the United States. But we started thinking to ourselves, this is not just Vietnam. It's got to be in other countries, in particular the developing world. And so then we started thinking that maybe we should go beyond just doing things, informally, and do something formally about it. And that's when we started, we founded the Alliance for Safe Children. We started raising funds for that. And then we started doing what we call the problem at the time, and this is 2001, 2002, the developed world, countries like Australia had a big focus on safety and other developed countries as well. But the developing world at the time, neither the government of these countries nor the public, the international public health community, and I'm talking about the UNICEFs and the WHOs, nobody was focusing on that. And so we said, well, we've got to do something about it. And the reason, injury prevention happens to everybody. Okay, it applies to everyone. But we started thinking, okay, we can't start too big. And that's the other thing, if you want to be a change maker, start small and then build it up, learn by your experience, and then you'll succeed to make a bigger impact. And so we chose to focus on child injury because we thought, look, with the lack of safety awareness, it's better to teach someone from a young age, because then, there'll be a generational impact. You try and teach an older person, maybe he or she is too set in their ways and they won't listen to you. And so that's how it started. So we raised funds for the cause, what we call, it was at the time an orphan issue. Nobody was focusing on it. So we were able to raise funds for it. We used those funds to then start small projects that proved that there was a problem. Because when we started, if I said child injury is a big public health problem, people wouldn't believe me because there were no statistics that proved that. The first step was we started to prove to the world that child injury prevention, particularly in the developing world, was a huge problem. And our research then proved that, in fact, child injury kills more children in Asia than all infectious diseases combined. So after that, we then received more funding. We then received more cooperation from UNICEF and from the governments of those countries. We started in about 8 countries. The first one was Vietnam, where we worked with the Ministry of Health, the School of Public Health, Department of Education, Melissa, and all that. And then we start mobilizing. And as we went on, we learned more and more. And that's how we made that impact. And my biggest pride, when we started the project, we said to ourselves, look, who the hell are we? I'm a former banker, trade diplomat, business consultant, my husband, ex-fighter pilot, United States congressman, businessman, ambassador. What do we know about public health? But we said, this is an orphan issue and we just have to do it. But our objective, the primary objective of the foundation, is put ourselves out of business as soon as possible by convincing the institutions that should be focusing on this issue, being the UNICEF, the WHO, the governments of those countries, get them to really treat this issue seriously. And my biggest pride, on the 28th of April 2021, the United Nations General Assembly adopted a historic first ever United Resolution on Global Drowning Prevention, which is one of the biggest killers among all of the child injury prevention causes.
Wow. That is unbelievable. It's, starting from something like a kernel of an idea, V, and then growing that to this point is truly astonishing. And I'll ask you some more questions more about the detail that you spoke about. But you've seen many, obviously seen many people through the through the foundation. How do you think, your foundation has actually created change makers. Like, have you seen other people do the same journey in starting small with the Alliance for Safe Children and then grow to create a more global message, you know, through that influence that you've created?
Yes, definitely. And in fact, a prime example is right there in Vietnam. Uh, I think we all would agree that traffic is a huge problem in Vietnam. It was horrible when I first came in 1993. It has improved a lot, but it's still pretty bad. But the biggest impact, and we had something to do about it, is you now look around and everyone is wearing a helmet. Every motorcycle rider is wearing a helmet. And we do claim to have a pretty big impact on that. And we through our work, we then influence another foundation which created, if you remember those helmets, I can't remember the name, but it was, you know, the when we started, we focused on very much on road traffic, but other areas as well. And when we started suggesting that the government should put a helmet, should make helmet wearing mandatory, everyone started having all sorts of excuses. You know, it's too hot, tropical weather messes up my hair, it doesn't look good, and all that kind of thing. But through our work, we then helped another organization start a foundation, which was the creation of the what they called a tropical helmet that would fit into the weather pattern of Vietnam. And a lot of the helmets that you see, you know, the problem at the moment, even though helmet wearing is mandatory, the safety issues are still there because people don't wear it properly. But if you buy a helmet from that particular foundation, it has all of the safety standards that would be required internationally. So that's one example. We had a huge influence on UNICEF. The United Nations resolution was a result of a lot of lobbying work from us and our colleagues in various countries. And in fact, Vietnam was a major sponsor of that resolution. And it used a lot of our data in order to convince the top leaders to adopt that.
That's great. I mean, V, it's so impressive, and I think it's amazing the work that you have done. A question for you would be: what do you think is your greatest achievement, or what do you think is the greatest achievement of the Alliance for Safe Children?
Raising global awareness on the need to focus on child injury prevention. Now, the United Nations was on global drowning. And again, coming back to my earlier statement about, you know, don't be too ambitious. We were very ambitious at the beginning. We said child injury prevention, and that's road traffic, drowning, burns, electrocution, falls, animal bites, everything. We're going to change the world. And then after about a year or two, we said, look, this is just too ambitious. We can't raise enough money to fund all the programs in each of the injury areas. And so then we started to say, okay, looking at the statistics, which is the biggest killer? Drowning. Drowning kills more children than all of those causes. And even in Australia today, okay, drowning, and in the developed world, drowning is pretty big. But drowning in Asia, because nobody, I mean, children live around water, right? Dr. Ha, you know that, they walk to school, they walk through ponds. In Bangladesh, where we had a very big program, I mean, children were just drowning within a few meters of their mothers because the mother had to do work and then couldn't focus on the little kid, and they go and jump into the little ponds and they can drown that way. And so we started focusing on drowning prevention. And so the answer to your question, Jos, is that firstly, I truly believe that we were able to convince, and remember I said at the outstart, make ourselves out of business, okay? Because we're not the experts. The experts in this area should be the UNICEF, the WHOs, the Institute of Public Health around the world, all of these people. So my biggest pride is that we were able to raise that awareness and make those people realize that, yes, this is something that is very important that we need. Because, see, people put a lot of money into infectious disease prevention. And if you look at a lot of our graphs, we show infectious disease going down because there's so much resources going into it. And at the same time, so you've saved a child from an infectious disease only to lose that child through some stupid accident that could have been prevented.
Yeah.
So that to us, because now the whole world, with the United Nations taking the lead, the whole world is going to focus on this.
That's excellent. Well, thank you so much for that answer, Vi. Brilliant. Sorry, Marisha, do you want to go ahead?
I was just thinking, along what you've been saying. In university, we try to develop our students' skills in being a global citizen. Things like critical thinking, like leadership, like having a voice, like engaging in public discourse. And these skills are very, very important. But then how do we actually apply these skills, do you think, to make change makers? And you one of the things, I think, two of the things that came up when you're originally describing it were, courage and belief. I mean, we can have all of these skill sets that we teach our students, but how do you combine those to become a change maker and make change? Vi?
I think firstly, live by example. So, if, as I said, you can pick a cause and have a very small impact. Doesn't have to be big, but if you really believe in it and you persevere in that pursuit, then you are likely to succeed. But through that journey, you have to learn to be flexible. I think from the outset, you need to have that kind of unselfish mindset. Okay, I'm doing something that, yes, I believe in it, I like the issue, but it's going to save someone or it's going to have a positive impact on someone. And if you keep that mindset, say, okay, don't be cooperative as well, so don't expect to just go and say something to somebody and they'll believe you straight away. You have to, you have to be patient. They might reject you at first, but, keep going slowly and then set an example. And so, in our case, going back to the foundation again, we say, look, I say to you, child injury is a big problem. You say, well, show me, prove it to me. Okay, I'll go and prove it to you. So I think that's the way to go about it.
That's great. And so how do you think we can, if we're wanting our students at Swinburne Vietnam, we're trying to make them become change makers and make them become global citizens, what do you think something that we can do in order to inspire our students to become change makers?
Well, again, I think, we can talk about global citizenship, and it doesn't mean that, of course, having the ability to see different parts of the world is important. But global citizenship also means that you set your views broadly beyond your immediate family, beyond your immediate community, beyond your immediate region, country, and then so I would say to them, have a open mind. I think an open mind to look at things, but don't just see it in black and white. There are always shades of gray, and then
Yeah.
try and probe into that and think, have the courage to say, well, I know a little bit about something about that, but maybe I can help, and then expand that way.
I just wanted to ask a question. What can you tell us about a key moment of joy that has occurred, that you have, you've experienced some form of, you feel, oh wow, we finally got some success. Can you just tell us about that moment? I think that's really, really important, because if we remember those key moments, they make such an impact on us personally and professionally. So can you tell us?
Well, again, I think have to go back to my passion, child injury prevention. We had a big drowning prevention program in mainly two countries. One is Bangladesh, the other one is Vietnam, and we chose Da Nang as the what we call the pilot program. And I think we had a program in about 8 schools. Okay. And with drowning prevention, you're talking about the ability to, in say, a flat situation, be able to get to safety. Okay. So we are talking about swimming, knowing how to swim, but not Olympic swimming, survival swimming. And so we did a survival program in Da Nang in cooperation and collaboration with the Royal Life Saving Society of Australia. And so we chose about about 10 schools in Da Nang, covering both the metropolitan as well as the country areas. And again, when you're trying to do something that has a bigger impact than on yourself immediately, then you need to, again, be adaptable and be entrepreneurial and have, think about new ways of doing things. And so if you were going to teach kids to swim, then of course people say, well, so the schools. So we go to a school and we say, well, we would like to have a survival swimming program. And of course, first thing teacher says, well, you're going to give me a swimming pool, and a swimming pool costs a lot to build. And so no, we thought, okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to design a portable swimming pool that is relatively cheap to do, that can be installed in on the grounds of the school, and it only comes up to say the shoulder level of the kids, and then we'll have teachers from the Royal Life Saving Society who will then teach some of the teachers at the schools, and then we'll have the program that way. And my biggest joy, to answer your question, was back in I think it was 2011, when the Governor General of Australia made a visit to Vietnam, And we took her to one of the schools in Da Nang and showed her, and just looking at the kids swimming in there, demonstrating not just what they can do, but demonstrating CPR, demonstrating how they would save someone, if in the case of a flood situation, just getting, to the shore and all that. That was one of my biggest joy. It was just a delight.
Yeah, I mean, and these moments are so pivotal to, us actually seeing the steps to success. And I can almost feel the joy. It's palpable in seeing you recall that and seeing those steps. I think is fantastic. I just have one more question before Jos is going to take us into Q&A. One of the things we teach our students in our programs is the importance of research. Would you agree that research has been the key thing to actually enabling this to happen?
Definitely. I mean, like I said, if you want to do something and people don't believe in you, then what do? You have to research your project, make sure that you cover every ground, and then be able to show, okay, I'll prove to you what I'm saying is correct. So now will you support me? So yes, absolutely, research is pivotal to everything that we do. When we set out to prove a concept that is not widely accepted as yet. And that's what change making is about. Because if you do something that everybody knows about, then it's not making a change.
Yeah, exactly. And so using research to back up what you're saying. Jos, you had some questions there that have come in from the audience. Do you want to take the floor on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So just first of all, thank you so much for your answers. I think they've been really, really useful for all of the audience today. We've had loads of questions come in. I wish we had enough time to get through them all, but I'm going to pick a few for you. So the first question I have is, let's have a look. What is the impact of education on a change maker's mindset?
I would say that it is the most important. Education is everything because it enables you, one, it gives you the skills to understand an issue and then be able to research it and work on it. And one of the reasons I am so much in support of Swinburne Vietnam is that Vietnam are one of the countries that really value education. And I think it is just so important. Education opens up your mind. And so, for those of you who are lucky enough to receive an education, it's make the most of it, and then hopefully through your education you'll be able to help as well as influence others.
Brilliant. So important. Jos, I'll let you take over the questions here since you're the star host that we had in Swinburne.
I thought that was very inspiring. What you just said, then, Vi. I thought it was brilliant. So we have another question, which is, with your background and experience in both corporate and education, what are your suggestions for organizations on encouraging change makers within their establishments?
I would say, again, give them and encourage them to think beyond their immediate jobs. And so I'd say, in terms of change making, particularly if you're talking about commercial organizations, I'd say give staff the flexibility to be able to contribute perhaps to a cause that is a little bit beyond their immediate jobs. And in that way, then it helps them to think about the broader issues, societal issues, rather than just their own career.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. I think that's a very good. I think that's a very good point that you've made there. We have another question here, which is, I think this is very relevant for particularly our students as well. So students often say that they're too young, too inexperienced to be heard, let alone become a change maker. They think that they need to wait until they become rich or successful, or that they're already successful business people and they have a lot of money to start making changes. Do you think this view is correct? And should they wait until they have achieved certain things in their life, or should they start doing it right now?
Absolutely not. You can make a change. A change can be small or big or whatever. You can influence members of your immediate family. You can influence members of your community. You can do, so starting small is actually better. And starting young is even better, because then it enables your mindset to adapt and learn from the experience. And so I would say to young kids, just look around you. And if you see something that you say, hey, that should be done differently, or that, hey, maybe I can do things better, then pick up that issue, think about it, and then start talking to people. See, talking to people also is a learning experience, because people have different views on different things. So just because you believe in something doesn't mean that it's right for the next person. But if you really believe that you can make a change, then you can influence that person by talking to them, then by learning and researching your own cause, and then work it out through that way. Talk to your friends, talk to your parents, talk to your colleagues, talk to your other fellow students, and you can make a change that way.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, and a really, really valid thing that all of our students should listen to. Age and success doesn't matter at all. You can make a change at any time in your life.
Yes.
And exactly what you were saying before as well, be about, something has to start off small in order to become, this huge, successful oak tree and so on. So yeah, that's amazing.
And the important thing is, I think, from the examples that you've quoted, is that change doesn't always relate to an economic result. Okay, it can be, it's in fact, the pursuit of economic outcomes is quite actually separate. I mean, of course, it can make an impact, but to me, change making is more about changing the world, changing your community, changing your society for the better. So, it's not monetary. It can be as little as you see somebody mistreating somebody, kids bullying each other, and trying to change that. See, you can do it simply by talking, by trying to get other people to support you. So yes, it's not monetary. Don't think about it in terms of, oh, I have to make a lot of money. You can make a change immediately within your family or your society.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
We have another question here for you, V. This is, are there any core changemaker skills that every student should master?
I'm sorry, any what?
Any core changemaker skills that you think a student should master?
I think adaptability and flexibility, because the world is constantly changing. Whatever you set out to do, you're going to encounter, from the start, when you start and throughout that process, things are going to change. So to me, adaptability and flexibility, you need to pivot as you go. Okay. And so don't have an inflexible idea on how you do things. So you might have a strategy at the beginning to say, okay, this is how it's going to happen. But then along the way, there'll be stumbling blocks, and then you need to pivot. So, you might go one direction, but then you might have to slightly move as you go.
Yeah. I have a question, Jos, in there, and I think perhaps it's relating to perhaps some of the insights and the comments that students are making. Obviously, you started a few years ago with this foundation, and in the 90s and the early 2000s. What would you say has changed, changed a lot in a post-COVID world for your foundation? I mean, we're in, I guess, a change in chapter in the way that we do things and the way that we understand things. But what would you say are the biggest changes that you are anticipating for the foundation from kind of last year, this year, and then moving forward to the future?
Well, firstly, I have to say that the foundation is no longer operational because we have declared mission accomplished. Okay, that's what we set out to do, put ourselves out of business. And now that all of the other big institutions are looking at the problem, we're no longer operational. But if I were to start a similar endeavor now, I think the lessons would be, firstly, technology would change a lot of things. We used to do a lot of things without the help of technology. So, for example, I would have saved a lot of funds, very scarce funds that were necessary to put into programs by having to travel to those areas. When post-COVID world, with the use of this kind of technology, we could have achieved a lot of meetings and everything, and without the cost of the travel. So technology, number one, the use of technology will be very, very important in adapting to your new world. And so if you haven't done it yet, get up to speed with every new app, every new way of doing things electronically as you can, because that would help you a lot. And that saves a lot of money as well.
Yeah, it's such a relevant point. And it's been such a challenge, I think, shifting globally. Millions of people are working online now, and this is our new normal. So it's you're right, get on board. And I think if we can see that it's not only the way we learn, but it's the way that we do business and the way that we do charity and the way that we give back is so important. So thanks, V.
And if I can add, and that has a lot to do, is very relevant to Swinburne Vietnam. I could understand that a lot of students would be missing campus life, and that's very important in itself. But I think going forward, I think we have to adapt and make, it on the one hand, it'll be the responsibility of the university
Yeah.
to make the environment for the students so that they can enjoy and learn online, but also have that sense of being part of the university. So, it'll be a little bit of both, but I think students should not see it as a downside of a
Yeah.
post-COVID. In fact, we talk about post-COVID. I don't think there is yet a post-COVID, and there may never be. It's the new COVID adaptability that we're talking
Yeah.
about, because some of the things that have changed, they're not coming back.
Mm.
We're looking at
Yeah.
ongoing, constant change.
Yeah, that's very true.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much, V. This is going to bring us to the end of our Q&A session now. I think that all of our audience have taken some really, really insightful things away from you, and I hope everyone's benefited from this. Sorry if we couldn't answer everyone's questions. We're just about running out of time. But this will be the end of our Changemakers session for today. So I'd just like to invite all of our participants to say a final few words. V, would you like to say a goodbye to everybody?
Sure. Well, again, thank you very much to Swinburne Vietnam for having me as your first guest. Thank you to all the participants who tuned in. I do hope that I have been able to give some insight. It's only my personal experience. It's not, anything fantastic. But as I said, the key is that you pick a course and you just go with it. You only care about what impact you can make. Don't have to be too ambitious. I'm proud of what I have been able to do. I hope that it may have inspired some of you to do similar things, but all of you can be change makers. So keep at it, pick a good cause, be open-minded about it, think society rather than just immediate you. And I wish you all the best, and keep on studying. Thank you.
Thank you, V. And Dr. Ha, would you like to say something to our audience?
Thank you so much, V, for today's talk. Right, your story, I think, it inspires students, and I personally inspire your talk as well. Right, because I think that as a message, right, we can make an impact, go beyond so intermediate, right, and that impact could be small, could be big, or whatever, but we should do some impact. And I think that your story is really inspiring, very useful for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Ha. And Marisha, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, my internet's a bit sporadic at the moment, but I just want to say a personal thank you to V for sharing your stories with us. I feel I really resonated with some of the points that you made, and feeling like, you've got to understand the small failures you make or the mistakes that you make, and then slowly, and before you know it, the impact is made. But truly, it is actually quite emotional to listen to your story and how inspiring you are, and how much we can resonate with that story in some ways, those of us who have a little bit older than our students. But I would like to say a sincere thank you from our hearts and from everyone at Swinburne Vietnam. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So this is going to bring us to the end of today's Changemaker session. Again, I would just like to thank everybody for taking part, and especially to V. For myself as well, I thought you were inspiring, and I hope that all of the audience can sit and listen to exactly what you've said, and just put a little bit of that into their life, and to develop to become change makers. I think all of our students are probably going to hopefully apply, exactly what you've said as well, to their moonshot strategies, and that they can develop themselves. So I just want to thank everyone again, for the audience for joining, interacting, providing us with some really, really insightful questions. And then finally, I would just like to remind everyone that the next episode of the Changemaker series will be on Thursday, the 7th of October at 11 a.m. with Julianne Cowley, the Australian Consul General in Ho Chi Minh City. So we look forward to seeing you all again then. And thank you very much for everyone for joining. Goodbye.
We are global citizens. This is a whole other life Little Australia of Swinburne Vietnam with Global Citizen and Career Development Program 2020. What does it mean to be a global citizen? A global citizen can study anywhere, live anywhere, and work anywhere. A global citizen cares about global issues, uses critical thinking and knowledge to look for solutions and apply them to the real life. A global citizen cannot lack a presentation and debate skills. Why we debate? For good ideas and true innovation, you need human interaction, conflicts, arguments, debates, researches, practice academic integrity. By failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. All debaters have learned a great lesson on teamwork and discipline to give out a true intellectual party. English, social skills, and critical thinking. These are three important foundations of any global citizens. We all want to make the world a better place for ourselves and future generations. This is the main reason we bring the perfect program, Global Citizen, into Swinburne, Vietnam. I am a global citizen. Become a global citizen, unlock your power, and delight your future. Let's get started with journey to become a global citizen at Swinburne, Vietnam.